All right, editing. Let's talk about working with audio. Now, using audio, as I've said before, audio is the key to high quality and people being able to understand your story, right? If the audio is bad, people won't be able to follow along with your story. You want them to be able to hearing what it is, and audio sets up great atmosphere as well, like the sound of the bike, the sound of the road, the sound of the pub that you visited, whatever. Like all that audio creates atmosphere. So it's really important to get that right. However, having a balance in the way that you do this, you want to create a method that is really straightforward and simple and repeatable and sustainable, right? You don't want a method where you're getting intricately detailed editing every single time, because that will take forever, right? You don't want to be editing each individual file because that will take too long, right? So you want a process that's nice and straightforward. So I'll show you my process. Now we go through audio in two different sections. There is the audio that we've captured, which is additional to the video. So if I've got Pro Tunes turned on and I'm recording WAV files separately, or I'm recording audio from another source and I want to include it in, then that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is then balancing audio out to make sure the audio is right as far as your loudness settings, you know, how loud is your video, and then also the balance between music and vocal and stuff like that. First part is very optional as far as whether you choose to do it or not, because it is time consuming to do this extra step. I'll run through what that looks like, and you can automate it, which actually makes it reasonably straightforward. It is an extra step, but it is not too much of a hassle once you get into that flow. So let's take a look at it. What I have here is, I'm just looking at the Hero 9. I have recorded separate audio on all the other cameras as well, but I'm just going to look at primarily the Hero 9 at the moment, because that is my primary camera. Now, I've just singled this down to the first part of this footage, the first section. But these are all the WAV files that were created in the GoPro separate to what is in the video files. Now, the advantage of that is that they will match, that they're easy to find because they got the same name and they are of the same duration. However, if you recorded audio through a separate device, like an audio capture device, then most likely they're going to have different names, different times, different everything. So it becomes a little bit harder to find stuff. Now, I've created a folder called audio, dropped all my WAV files into there, and then I've created an empty folder called audio 2. Reason being is that when I edit my WAV files, in any audio editor, it's usually destructive in that whatever edits you change, you're saving it back to the original file. So what I'm going to do is actually, in my batch process, I save it to a different location so that I keep my original files and then have my new files. So audio is the originals, audio 2 is where the new files will go. So copy that into, I'm using Adobe Audition. There's free versions of other software they all sort of run through a similar, process, similar, all the same. As I said, with the video editor, they are different, but the principles are all the same. So the first thing I do is I just batch process all of these into my new location so I don't accidentally end up recording over the top of what I want to keep. So I want to change the file location to be this. With the GoPros, they record in 4 channels. Reason being is they have 3 microphones, so they record 1 to each channel. So when you're dealing with the WAV files, you want to convert them into stereo, and generally you want to get rid of and choose the microphones you're going to use. However, I'm using the media mod, which means that they're all, let's take a look at the file. And you can see it's really low volume. Let's just bring that volume up. Actually, let's pick another file. It gives us a little more detail. So you can see there's only one channel on this file. Reason being is I've plugged the lav mic into the media mod, so it's only picking up one channel because the lav mic is mono. Most lav mics are mono, so it's only one channel is active. So what I'm actually going to do is convert this into, using the same setup, convert it into mono. So that's a pretty basic one. It's just good. If I find the one where I'm actually talking. Okay, so here's the one where I'm actually talking. You can see that there's speech in this one because of the heights of the wave files. What I'm going to do is just batch these. Again, as I was saying, I'm going to make them mono, copy them to the new location, hit run, and it just processes them through. Now all it's doing is converting them, is saving them into my new location. And I'll go back and check that. There they all are there. So there's my originals, that's my new files. So now I've got the originals backed up. I don't need to stress about those. As far as batching, I don't need to batch anymore. So I'm gonna get rid of those out of there. The only other step I usually make here is just matching loudness. Now, just to clarify, loudness is different to volume. Volume is the instantaneous level that the device is set at. Loudness is actually a perceived volume over time. So this is how much, you think about it, you can endure a loud noise if it's really short, right? But a loud noise over a long period of time is loud, right? So a noise at high volume over a long period of time is loud, right? That's how it works. So what this does is it kind of reads, where it should be. Now I usually set this -16 if it's just like this sort of content, it's just talking. I tend to drop it to about -20 if I know there's bike noise in there. It just tends to push it too high, I found. So what we do is set that to -20, hit run, and it will go through and process all the files to have the same loudness in them. So now if I go back and look at all my files, they've all got similar volumes. So I might even actually try that at -16, see what that looks like. Yeah, actually that is nicer. So that's just wind noise. Where's my talking at?
Depending on the grey gums today.
So all I'm doing is ensuring that all the files match as far as how loud they are. So they're all kind of got the same volume. And then I can just go File, Save All, because I've already batched them to the new location. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do. So you can see some of the files there. That's what it did to each of the files. So you can see they all kind of went up by a few decibels. Some were higher than others, but all we're doing there, so this one was, because there's a bit of time idling there, it's not as loud, so it's bumped it up slightly higher. So now I can just go close all. And now I've got all my new files sitting in here. Because I have external audio, because I've got these WAV files, I actually need to synchronize them first before I start bringing them in. So for example, I've got these here. Now if I select all of that, bring those, and I just go auto sync based on waveform. I've created a little shortcut for that, so I can just synchronize that. And you can see here, if I go over to the right here, I've got here synced auto, right? So that's basically created a wave, used the wave file instead of the built-in file. So same thing here, synchronize that. I'll just go through and synchronize them all. Now, I'm just doing those individually, or you can do the whole folder. Now, the advantage of doing the whole folder is it will synchronize everything in one hit. It takes a lot longer because it's trying to synchronize all these different files. That one I know there's not really anything on, so I'm actually going to leave that. So I can go to this folder and go right click and then go auto sync the whole bin. Now, as I said, the advantage of that is it's going to do the whole thing at once. Disadvantage is it takes a long time to do that. And the second disadvantage is that it often gets it wrong if there's just lots of ambient noise and not much vocal. There's not something obvious that it should synchronize to. So sometimes you can end up, you can see here we've got audio channels, there's 2, right? And that's because the original file is a stereo file. Now, when I synchronize, so if I synchronize these two, you can see this audio file is mono, right? So if I go to that and synchronize those two, then that video file will change to only having one channel, right? Which tells me that it's synchronized just the one file, which is what we're expecting. Now, very often I've found that if I synchronize a whole folder, that there will be a few videos that synchronize badly, and that will instead say like 4 or 5 or 10, right? Because it's picked up all these other files that actually aren't the right file. So it's a bit of that 80-20 rule. Do you go and do the full folder sync to save some time and then go back and make the changes to the 20% that are wrong? Or is it that you actually end up, when you do that, that 80% of them are wrong and you spend more time fixing them up, right? So that's a judgment call. It really depends on how your audio is run. So we're just going to synchronize all these, just make sure that they're all synced up and we're ready to roll. I'm not going to make you sit there through that. It's okay.